Hello and a warm welcome to our Budget Day live coverage. And Nirmala Sitharaman, the Finance Minister, presented her first budget of Modi Government 3.0, and this was her seventh consecutive budget. Now, what were the main focus areas today? Let's begin with that. Enhancing productivity and resilience in agriculture, boosting employment and skill development, promoting inclusive human resource development and social justice, energy security, improving infrastructure, encouraging innovation, research and development, implementing the next generation reforms. Now, the key initiatives, some of the key initiatives, and we shall discuss it further in our course of program. Now, the internship employment linked incentives, they've targeted for the first time the job seekers, comprehensive review of the Income Tax Act 1961 to help the middle class. Then custom duties have changed. Fiscal deficit has been estimated to be at 4.9% of the GDP. And in terms of the allocations on which all eyes were glued to that how much will be allocated to Andhra and Bihar because they are the key allies on which the government is heavily dependent. 15,000 crore to Andhra and 26,000 crore to Bihar. Now, the former finance minister, the Congress leader, P. Chidambaram, held a press conference just a short while back, and he has criticized the budget, which lacks originality. And he says that it's a virtual adoption of the Congress manifesto. So, how would one look at the complete picture of the budget? And mind you, the budget today, the copies were not given to the MPs. Once the budget speech was over, it was only then that the budget speech was made available to all the MPs. So, obviously, people are still sifting through the pages as to what the budget holds for them, whether it is the women, whether it is the farmers, the middle class, all segments. So the four main pillars on which Nirmala Sitharaman has said that these are the priority areas. They are the Garib, the women, youth, and the farmers. So we shall try and begin the discussion today. You can see on the screens our panelists, and I'll begin with S. Srinivasan, who's the editor-in-chief of the Federal. So thank you so much for joining. We have renowned economists also joining us, Professor Santosh Mehrotra and Professor Karan Singh are with us. Both of you, thank you so much for joining. We have Himanshu Bayani, who's the business journalist and who's been associated with CNBC. Thank you so much, Himanshu. We have Pushpraj Deshpande, who's the author of the Bharat Jodo Yatra. It's a book, and he works also closely with the India Alliance. Thank you so much, Pushpraj. And then we have Mr. Thomas Franco. And Mr. Thomas Franco is the former General Secretary of the All India Bank of Officers Confederation, and he currently coordinates the People's Commission on Public Sector and the Public Services. Thank you so much, Mr. Franco. And we have Dr. Bipin Soni, who is the former professor with Dr. B.R. Ambedkar School of Economics, and he now works with one of India's leading educational institutions, that is Vidya Shilp University. Thank you so much, Mr. Soni. Now, I'll begin with Himanshu, who can just give a clear picture on the big picture, the macro picture of the budget. What does it look like? And then I'll go to the other panelists. Yes, Himanshu, over to you first.
Thank you, Neelu, and greetings to all the panelists. I would say that if this budget was announced in 2014, and if the agenda was almost to be kept intact every year, then there would be such 10 budgets. So from the announcement point of view, this budget looks very pinkish, but from the implementation point of view, I think there are lots of question marks. The kind of allocation which has been done in terms of funding, when the finance minister clearly indicates of agriculture, then the fertilizer subsidy has been cut down. I mean, all the subsidies, if you see the fertilizer, the fuel and the food subsidies have been cut down. A major allocation has been done in finance, which is almost 4 times the jump of what was there last fiscal. So what is the agenda of the government is a big question. And in other areas, wherever the allocations have been increased, I see even a kind of dent in the defense allocation, which is almost of 10 billion rupees. That's 1,100 crores kind of a thing. So from the point of view of announcement, yes, this budget looks pinkish. It looks good in terms of in favor of economy. But in terms of taxation, it's a little no because of the the capital gain tax on the short term and long term, which is clearly reflected in the sentiments of stock markets in Sensex and Nifty, which till 11, 10 were trading up and then suddenly spiked down, and now they have recovered a little. So this is how it is, especially when the Indian Economic Survey was out yesterday, when the projections for 24-25, fiscal 24-25 are almost in terms of 6.5 to 7%, which is 1.2% low as compared to 8.2 this fiscal, and 1.2 to 1.7%. So how this budget will really help in achieving those targets is a big question mark. Uh, Another area of concern, I mean, what I would see is that, you have increased the, I mean, you've kept almost the corporate taxation at par. But what you've done is that you're going to be supplying a manpower at 5,000 rupees to the top 500 corporate companies in India, which is almost 10,000 jobs in one particular company, if I say in that direction. What would be the reservation in terms of the IPR of this youth, which is going to join these companies as an intern? Because the youth is bubbling with the ideas, and when when you're promoting the startup ecosystem. So these are couple of area, I mean, which I see personally that this is there, which needs to be addressed. No mention has been made about infra in terms of Gati Shakti project or probably Sagarmala project, or probably mention about roads and rails, hardly in packages of Andhra Pradesh and Bihar. Otherwise, no mention has been done about this, and clearly no smart cities mention, which was there in the previous budgets. While we see the infrastructure is grappling purely, we see the roads and bridges falling, but no, I mean, mention has been made about that. And clearly the data and numbers which were talked in previous budgets, how that has been addressed, how that has been delivered is a big question mark. And I see a challenge over here, because we are talking this today on July 23rd, which is just 7 days short of the second quarter of the first month of second quarter. And then if you see, there are hardly 7 months to deliver if you are talking of the next budget in February. So in 7 months, how these all things are going to be delivered, while government clearly indicates of the global challenges, economic challenges, and of course the job dent happening due to the tech challenges. So this is my take, by and large, if you ask me, on a micro and macro front. But yes, government has tried to address in areas of agriculture, industries, and service sector. But there are challenges everywhere, and how government will address these challenges or how it will implement these announcements in another 7 months, that's, I think, needs to be observed.
Obviously. So the implementation is the key. Some big announcements have been made, but how they will implement, we do not know. But looking at the various sectors which the Modi government has tried to address, now the more main pillars, the Garib, the women, the poor, the women, the youth, and the farmers. I'll come to you, Professor Santosh Mehrotra, that looking at the rural distress, lack of employment opportunities, do you think that the Modi government's 3.0 budget has addressed these key issues which people were looking forward to? Yes, Professor Mehrotra.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me, Neelu?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so you mentioned agriculture, so let me start there. I was hoping that they will actually start a process of investment in agriculture that, unfortunately, I don't see any evidence of in the budget. If we were to start a process of investment in agriculture, we might be able to raise productivity and also raise incomes, which would raise rural demand and therefore raise demand for non-farm goods. And shortage of demand has been a consistent problem across the economy, which is one very important reason why private investment has not been growing. Then you mentioned youth, right? You asked about youth, am I right? So on youth, I was pleasantly surprised to note that there is a newfound emphasis on apprenticeship and skilling, because this government has performed rather poorly on the skilling front. The 2015 National Skills Policy had projected that we will skill about 400 million people. In its appendix 4, it had said we will skill for 400 million people between 2015 and 2022. By its own admission, we've actually skilled since then only 14 million people. So its performance has not been very good. However, the apprenticeship scheme, which has clearly been taken straight out of the Congress manifesto, is welcome news. I had strongly been recommending it to the Congress myself. Let us see if they get the implementation right, a kind of issue that Himanshu was just raising. On that, I have 2 points to make, two further points to make on the apprenticeship scheme. Uh, One is that I'm sort of puzzled by the 500 top companies that are supposed to be helped. The big issue around that is the following: that this Apprenticeship Act has already been in existence in 1961, Nilu, but big private companies have actually not taken up apprentices very much at all. The second problem, and so how they will go about actually encouraging the top 500 odd companies that they claim, we will have to wait to see. Secondly, a question in my mind has always been about the apprenticeship scheme, is the following: that MSMEs have not picked up on the apprenticeship possibilities that are available to them in the following sense. The Apprenticeship Act provides for, in both its avatars, the Ministry of Education as well as the Ministry of Skill Development avatars, provision for a stipend, part stipend to be paid by the government. Now, we know perfectly well that MSMEs don't take up these apprentices because they don't have the facilities to train on campus. In addition, they feel these apprentices are a sort of burden which they needn't take on. For that reason, I've always recommended the following: that um, the stipend for MSMEs should be 50%, not the 25% share of the total stipend that's paid, but that 50% should be borne by government. However, we don't know whether that's in fact what's going to turn out to be the case. If that doesn't turn out to be the case, the MSMEs will not pick it up. Okay, that's on the youth. What was your other third?
Uh, the poor, the women, the youth, and the farmers. These were the pillars.
Right. I think the farmers I've already spoke about.
Yes.
On youth, I think apprenticeship is what is one thing, but I think on the jobs front, I was sort of really pleasantly surprised that, as opposed to this government's focus and interest in promoting the big national champions, so called, the big national champions, the 5 or 6 top uh, corporates. Now, this budget has attempted to say that we will provide significant support to the MSMEs. If that was in fact to transpire, although all that support is going to come through the banking system again, rather than from the budget, then there is a possibility that the MSMEs are able to revive, and they deserve and need to be revived, as the recently released Unorganized Enterprises Survey has shown that they suffered very severely since the demonetization, GST, and the national lockdown. So, but again, the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. So let me pause there at this moment. Nilu, I'm afraid you'll have to forgive me because I've had a very long day on one of the national TV channels,
All
and I
right,
have
sir.
3 other shows to appear on just tonight. So I'm going to
Okay.
take leave. You already have 7 other
Okay, sir.
guests.
Sure,
I'm
sure.
sure. Thank you
Sure,
very much.
Professor. Thank you. Thank you so
Namaskar.
much. I'll come to Professor Charan Singh now. Thank you, Professor Mehrotra. Charan Singh, that there's one major accusation which is coming that, regarding this budget is that the government is trying to do a band-aid job. They are trying to come up with some quick fix solutions, but the long-term vision is missing from this budget. What would you really say to this? Yes, Professor Charan Singh.
Look, in any budget or any statement, one has to really look at the reality. Now, as far as I am concerned, and I totally agree with the statement that Mr. Himanshu made, this budget speech should have been made in 2014. Now, the budget speech is very clear what their mission is. They're very clear what their objective is, and they're very clear what their path forward is. I think we are the only country in the world which is talking 25 years ahead. That is something absolutely credible, and one has to recognize it. Now, when they clearly say that we are going to look at agriculture, obviously, most of the people live there. Manufacturing, we have had a growth without manufacturing, which is not good. And China domination, we all know we have to claw it back and have to have industry within the country. Services, they're talking about infrastructure. We know urbanization is going to take place. That we know about energy, we have to bring in renewable energy and we have to get away from coal production. All this is there. Now, to me, this
Everything
is a
seems
20,
to be there, but there is no implementation plan. How the
no, no,
government is
no,
going to
no,
be
no, no,
implementing?
no, no,
There have been a lot of
no, no,
announcements in the last 10 years, but the
no, no,
implementation
no,
has
no, 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 no. You have said, is there a vision there? That's the
Hmm.
question you posed to me.
Yes.
Now, I see a vision there. I see there's a clear vision there. These are the four people whom we want to help: farmer,
Vision
you,
without an
the women.
implementation plan.
Now,
Vision
yeah,
without an implementation plan.
no, 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 no. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Firstly, is there a vision there? I do see a vision there. Will it get implemented? They themselves are saying it's not going to be done in 7 months. They are themselves saying it is a 5 year story. Even a few days back, the Prime Minister said, I'm going to unfold something which is going to be there for 5 years. They're talking of short, medium term, and the Viksit Bharat of 2047. Nobody is claiming that tomorrow morning you will get up, all youth will be employed. Nowhere, nobody is claiming that. So my reading is in any document which is made by the government, especially the budget document, one has to look at two, three things. One is how was the previous year? Have they stuck to their quantified fiscal indicators that they have done? What is the vision forward? Have they delineated that they have done? Now the implementation. Will they implement it? Before you say will they implement it, the question is it implementable? Are people capable of implementing it? Is the state government and the central government has the capacity and has the capability, has the willingness? So those are issues which are now going to come up. On these issues, let me take a stand. My view is, and I'm very happy if Mr. Chidambaram says that you have photocopied my plan. What more do you want in a well cooperative federal structure? That the opposition has the same view like the ruling party? If it is their budget which has been copied, cut, and pasted, I think now all of them should put their heads together and take us forward. So, my view is, and yesterday the economic survey spoke about it, the tripartite, the government, the public sector, and the corporate sector, and the public. We need to, and it also spoke about states' capacity, and states' capabilities. This has to be brought in now. I don't think that this is impossible. But I think this is going to take some time. It is going to involve cooperative federalism. They will have to discuss these things out. And I don't think this is too difficult. All I know is it needs, for successful implementation, it will need lots of deliberation, lots of discussion, exactly like the 1991 reforms. When it fell on our head, we did the impossible. It is on our head now. NEET, there is a problem. Unemployment, there is a problem. Some problem on UPSC we are facing. It is on our head. Unemployment is the biggest problem. Poverty, we have been able to eradicate something, but it's on our head. So therefore, I think when the situation is grim, everybody needs to come together. It is implementable. Only thing that it needs is lots of discussion, which is possible.
Right. Okay. So you say that the problems have really come on the head, and now you also say that they are implementable. Now I'll come to Srini sir. Srini sir, what according to you is the biggest hit and the biggest miss of the budget? If what Professor Charan Singh said, that the vision is there, it's implementable, then where else is the budget really lacking, according to you? Yes, sir. So you'll have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, Needu, thank you for calling me here. More than hit and misses, if we had to look at the big picture, what is this budget trying to attempt? I was reminded of the fact that in the past also, whenever there are problems, there are roadblocks which Prime Minister Modi would face, he won't shy to move away from that, whether it's the law on agriculture or even the land reform. I think what has happened here is one, what Mr. Charan Singh said is true. It's a long-term vision, but there is also a certain admission that this government seems to be chastened by the results of the recent elections. I'm saying this because of two facts. One is there's a lot of emphasis on, uh, you know, uh, jobs, and also a very though the inflation is very well at 4.5%, it's around 4. They are saying we're target is around 4. It seems to be under control, but the food inflation has been out of control for quite a while. I think these two issues the budget has certainly tried to address, and that's what I find immediately, that these are two things that the government is trying to attempt here in this budget. But overall, if you see, there are something which are done. Again, I feel it's because of the constant, maybe it's a criticism also they see. One is why they have done this capital gain tax on long term, which is 2.5%, which is, I think, the markets have immediately reacted to that. The other one is, of course, the short term by 5%. Now, these two things, when the market is really booming, going up, I think they seem to have put a brake. There could be two reasons. One is the valuations are going high. Probably they feel that, or the second thing is that too much of speculation is happening, especially in FNO. Maybe that's the reason. The other thing is the middle class was expecting too much, but all of us knew that they are driving all of us more towards the new tax regime, and but the incentives aren't great also. Uh, I think in bits and pieces, there are lots of things. If there is one big idea, I don't see, except that instead of peppering the budget with lots of things, she has actually kept the speech short compared to other speeches, focused on few issues, with primarily, the food inflation. That's why lots of things have been said. About unemployment, I think for the first incentive is being given to employees and also employers, so that they employ more people. See, it's very important for skilling, because I recently remember L&T chairman had said that he has 44,000, or I think 40,000 jobs, engineers, which he need to recruit, but he's unable to do because he's not finding suitable people. So skilling is a very important. I think they are attempting, but there are many other issues which one would have wondered that why the budget is silent on that. For instance, they haven't said anything about, they have kept completely quiet on defense budget. For a nationalistic regime, I would have thought they would only say something about it. Since the capital expenditure on defense is also an important issue, they haven't spoken about it. The one good thing which they seem to be pretty happy is the fiscal deficit is certainly under control. The fiscal situation is, as far as it's on paper, it's very good. You have good fiscal deficit numbers. The budget mentioned the fact that got a bonanza from the RBI, 2.1 lakh crores in the form of a dividend, which perhaps gave enough headroom for them to manage this. But certainly, the credit should go that they have managed the deficit, and then next year they are confident of achieving the FRBM target of 4.5%. That's one positive thing in the budget. We can discuss further. I think I would like to hear others
Yeah. All
going
right.
further.
Yeah. So I'll come to Mr. Thomas Franco now. That would we say, are we in a position to say that most of the lot and the various sectors which the government has tried to address, whether it is the middle class, whether it is the farmers, whether it's the women, uh, would they be a happy lot seeing the budget? Yes, Mr. Franco, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Well, this budget, if it is considered as a vision document, that is different. I don't see a lot of deviation from the past. If Mr. Chidambaram wants to continue the same kind of reforms and that is what these people are going to continue, that is not what was expected by the people who gave a different verdict in the elections. What was expected from the people is that the price should come down, employment should increase, education should get better allotment, school education should be free, healthcare should be free. The farmers expected that MSP will be actually implemented in the C2 plus 50 formula. They were asking for a debt waiver. In the public sector, we were expecting that the telecommunication, the charges have been increased by the private sector. So BSNL will be supported. They will be asked to immediately use the 5G or at least the 4G. That does not happen. And the states were expecting that the states will be treated as equal. But what we are seeing is that a huge allotment has been given to only their coalition partners, Andhra Pradesh and Bihar. You mentioned about 24 or 26,000 given to Bihar. It is much more. If you see the other schemes which are allotted for Bihar, it's a huge allotment. So it is at the cost of other states. So the federal structure is going to be disturbed and the states are going to make a huge hue and cry. And in the tax front, we were expecting that there will be a change. There has been a campaign going on for a 1% tax on the rich, a just tax campaign. People are expecting that there will be a wealth tax, inheritance tax, or increase of corporate tax. Nothing of that sort has happened. And the economic survey itself yesterday showed what I can say. They were not telling the truth. Look at the income inequality figures they gave. They were putting the blame on MSMEs only because they are down because of non-performing assets, which is not true. The majority of the non-performing assets is from the corporates. Similarly, the employment figures they gave was not correct. And the solutions now they are giving are also not correct. Now, if we are saying that to the papers highlights 1 crore employment is to be given as internship, but only go in, you see that it is over a period of 5 years. And that is going to be to help the 500 top business houses who are getting already so many concessions. If it is given to the MSMEs, that would have helped. And this fund, the 5,000 rupees per month, is going to help, and that is going to be an exploitation. I differ with my friend Santosh Malhotra that this apprenticeship is going to bring employment. People are employable. I am a banker. I didn't have to go for an apprenticeship. I have seen people coming out of the institution straight away getting employment and working. Why they should go for such kind of apprenticeship with a very low amount of 5,000 rupees and 1 year suffer, and there is no assurance that they will have a job after that. Similarly, there are few schemes I am very scared. I am from Kanyakumari in Tamil Nadu. They have announced a scheme for offshore mining. That is going to affect the entire coast. The World Bank, which is going to be affected, about which we have already made representation to the government of India. Similarly, she is talking about loans. And Mudra loans are going to be doubled. That is 10 lakh for those who had, now they will get 20 lakhs. Already there is a very poor recovery in the Mudra loans. And people will just come and repay the loan and ask for 20 lakh loan. And that may not come. It may not come back. That danger is there to the banking system. And whatever the banking system is doing, it is not a budget allotment. It is a loan we are giving to the people out of the depositors' money.
Right.
And now she has talked about 1 lakh students being assisted with 10 lakh loan. Who is going to get? The students from IITs and NITs, they are already given this offer by our banks. They are given 3% concession in the rate of interest and they are given this loan already. This same thing is being projected as something new. So, similarly on the insolvency and bankruptcy code, she has mentioned how much has been the recovery, 3.3 lakh crores. What has been the write-off? The write-off is 13.2 crores. The recovery rate is average only 20% after the haircut. So the facts are being hidden. New pathways are not laid down. Unless that is done, this budget is not going to help the whatever the 4 words they use, the Garib, the Yuva, the Mahila, all that it is not going to really address. Thank you very much.
Right. You made some very significant points, Mr. Franco. But a very important point which you said in your submission was how the states, the other states, will clamor for the fact that they haven't got enough. I'll come to Pushpraj Deshpande because there is one more accusation that this budget, it seems, revolves only around Andhra Pradesh and Bihar. But what about the other states? What is really going to happen now? And also the kind of the financial boost which has been given to Bihar, say for example 26,000 crores which are being given to Bihar. Now, is it would you qualify it for as a financial package, or would you just say that it's some infrastructure funds which have been given to Bihar? How would you see the kind of allocations which have been done in context with Bihar and Andhra?
Hi, Neeluji. Thank you for having me on the Federal. And of course, hello to all my fellow panelists. See, first things first, given that India is a federal polity, the new union government needs to empower states to spearhead welfare, their respective welfare schemes. Now, in this particular, given having made this normative statement, I want to point out that even though the 15th Finance Commission mandated that the government of India has to devolve 41% of total tax revenues, which is about 38.5 lakh crores as per this budget, the BJP government is devolving less than 30%. Plus, it's reduced its share in central sponsored schemes. Now, for many states, there is a double standard. As you pointed out, Bihar and Andhra Pradesh were mentioned multiple times, so much so that people are trolling the BJP government saying that Abki Bar, Andhra, Bihar. But leaving aside the superficial, the point that I'm trying to make is, like they talked about the Kosi floods. Bihar, which is affected by Kosi floods, has legitimately got 11,500 crores as a special package, which is perfectly fine. But at the same time, Assam, which is where I think over 14 lakh people are impacted in over 26 districts, there has been no special aid or package given. Similarly, there is no mention or no special aid or package given for states like Maharashtra, Assam, Haryana, Tamil Nadu, or so on and so forth. At a time when they have not extended the due date for GST compensation. Basically, understand what is happening. The government of India is financially starving state governments. This has profound implications for cooperative federalism, since states will be forced to raise more debt. This is troubling given internal debt, as per their own economic survey released yesterday, has jumped from 37.8% in 2014 to over 48% in 2023. Now, as you can imagine, the reason I'm flagging all of this is that I feel that the budget does not address structural fault lines or do much to actualize Amrit Kal or New India or Viksit Bharat or whatever vision they have been touting for the last 10 years. And I mean, I'm very surprised that people still believe that there is some vision that they feel that is going to get implemented. They said that by 2022 we'll double farmers' income. They said that we'll have 100% electrification, 100% toilets, and so on and so forth. Nothing has happened. They said demonetization was a perfectly valid scheme. That didn't work. I mean, the GST has been reduced to a moth-eaten GST. So I don't really have much faith in the vision that they are touting. They have tried to insert some innovations borrowed from the Congress Party manifesto, which is why the budget is being caricatured on social media as copy-paste budget. But leave that aside. Moving beyond the superficial, I have a fundamental question which I don't understand why people are not addressing. This government has obstinately refused to conduct the census in 2021. It is a historic first in over 130 years. Now, it is formulating schemes on the basis of 13-year-old census 2011 data. And this has implication for the kind of people that you're targeting. In some cases, like in the National Security Assistance Program, which has a bunch of programs, pension programs, it is using poverty data from 2005, 2006. This has profound consequences. I'll give you just one example. The Food Security Program currently services over 80 crore Indians, correct? Professors John Reyes and Ritika Khera have calculated that because they're using old data from 2011, over 10 to 12 crore Indians are excluded because of this. And I don't buy the argument that NSSO or labor survey force data can be used as a substitute for census, because those are samples. The maximum sample size is 11 lakh in one of the data sets. So it's not really this thing. It's not really useful or extrapolatable for the rest of this thing. That's the second point. The third point, the BJP government, keeping aside the minutiae of the tax, it imposes overall normatively, it imposes a regressive tax regime. At a time when consumption expenditure is at a historic 50-year low, wages have been stagnant for the better part of the last 8 years, and household debt, according to an SBI report, is at a 34-year high. Income tax and GST contribute to 37% of the total tax revenues. In contrast, corporate tax contributes to only 17%. Effectively, the BJP government is laying the burden of tax revenues on the middle class and the poor. This is at a time when private investment is at 19%, down from the 2008 peak of 27%. Now, I find this very surprising, and it points to the fact that the private sector does not have faith in the BJP government's ability to actually implement policy, which again talks to the larger point about whether they will be able to implement the vision. Private profits for the top 5,000 companies have risen from 5.2 lakh crores in 2021 to 20.3 lakh crores in 2023. And the BJP has given a 8.7 lakh crore tax waiver over the last 4 years. But despite that, the private investment is stagnating. This talks to the fact that they have no faith in their government to run a stable government or with sound policies. And ironically, the BJP government is expecting top 500 companies to hire 20,000 interns per year. Most companies don't have 10,000, maybe 20,000 workers. Plus, as per their own economic survey, 65% of Indians are unskillable and 50% graduates are unemployable, which points to a failure of their Skill India campaign. Again, failure of vision. How are these companies going to hire 20,000 interns per year? This is just some kind of scatterbrained corporate Agniveer program. So my point is, and again, one last thing about the defense thing, which Himanshuji was talking about. Today, at a time when our armed forces are deployed in forward posture across the entire border, not just in Ladakh, they're having to police in Manipur. Plus, Jammu is facing an unprecedented rise in terror attacks after 20 years. Our equipment is split between Russia and ammunition brought from Israel. At this time, they have slashed defense expenditure from 6.21 lakh crores just 5 months ago to 4.56 lakh crores. Now, my point is that all of this can talk to many things. We can give a lot of suggestions to this government. I want to point out one last thing, then I'll stop because I've taken up too much of your time. One of the previous panelists said that the government will govern consensually and perhaps use an institutional memory of the likes of Chidambaram and others, and that the Congress party should be very happy that they have borrowed this thing, and now we should now work together collectively in the larger national interest. I want to point out something that the economic survey said yesterday. I'm quoting verbatim. I'm just quoting here. I have it here. I quote, "Few people outside government can understand the complexity of governing and transforming India. Almost no one does. India needs multiple development pathways that has not been done before." Basically, this government, and I quote, end the quote. Basically, this government is saying, we know what is best. No one outside government can tell us or should tell us how to do what we need to do. And this is their attitude. What kind of consensual or cooperative governance are you going to get in the next 5 years?
Right. All right. But I'll come on the jobs. Right. I'll come on the jobs bit. Giri Prakash, I'll come to you now. Now, there is a clipping which I was seeing on December 30th, 2015. Now, this is a big headline in Mint. It says the government wants to create job creators, not job seekers. Now, has the goalpost shifted, what would you really say on the jobs front? Does it look like a happy scenario? Because that is something on which people are wanting to hear whether the government has done enough in this particular budget. And also knowing the fact that the kind of mandate they got, jobs was a major issue apart from the others. So has it really addressed the problem in a big way, which it should have? Yes, Kiri.
Thank you, Nilu. I must point out something very significant. Tomorrow, that is July 24th, is the anniversary of Dr. Manmohan Singh's maiden budget delivered in 1991. Look at the kind of the seats that the Congress had and the BJP had. It was more or less similar, but they came out with a standout reforms. And always, they have been in power for the last 10 years, and one expected that it will progress from one budget to another. But here, this is a budget which has had nothing to do with the previous 10 years of whatever that they announced. And I think that's quite a big drawback. And as far as the jobs creation is concerned, we need to understand that the private consumption has been, going down, and which is very alarming. And I was hoping that they would address that, and which they have not done that. And if you don't do it, how do you create jobs? Look at the kind of the savings have been going down, and they've talked about how every company will take around 20,000 interns, which is a non-starter, right? And therefore, it is very, very important that the government should have addressed that first. If you do not address the fundamental issues of the economy, you can build whatever bricks on that, but ultimately it will collapse. That's exactly the problem with this union budget.
Right. Now I'll come to Dr. Bipin Soni. So, whatever we have discussed so far, Bipin Soni, would you say that this looks like a very encouraging budget, which would make the people of the country at least happy that, okay, the government so far, the problems which it hadn't addressed, at least it has addressed in this budget. So, do we have something to look forward to? Yes.
Thank you for hosting me in this program. My take on this budget is that the government is trying to continue on their path to Viksit Bharat with a focus on capital expenditure and fiscal consolidation. However, as Mr. Srinivasan pointed out, the election results have shaken them a bit, which forced them to bring the focus on employability and skill updation of the youth, credit constraint in the MSMEs, or the issues in the agriculture. However, they haven't derailed from the path of fiscal prudency. If you look at the fiscal deficit, in fact, they reduced the target to 4.9% from 5.1% that was announced 4 months back. That talks volumes about the fundamentals of the economy. That is a good side of the story. However, in terms of policy announcements, there was nothing big. There was nothing big, as Himanshu rightly mentioned. No big schemes, like no mention of Sagamala, smart cities. And I went through the budget document, and I know the reason why there isn't, because the numbers haven't changed from the interim budget. The changes are minor, and there is nothing new for them to announce there. However, as an academician, I was heartened to see the focus on youth. In fact, national education policy is at the implementation state, and there is a great emphasis on internships and industry academia collaboration. If the internship scheme is implemented well, it can help the students. Okay, I must also say that companies also might find this proposal attractive because they are allowed to take the training cost as well as 10% of the internship cost from their CSR funds. So this is a win-win for both the companies as well as students, I would say. However, implementation is the key. Further, the emphasis is on the new tax regime, similar to the last budget also, and there are no deductions. So we are essentially saying that we are not going to encourage people to save. And this comes at a point when the savings rate in the economy has been falling, and the real wages remains stagnant, especially after the COVID. So government is not really trying to boost the savings, or rather I should say that the savings-led investment model has taken a backseat. The government believes that if the economy has to revive, consumption or increasing the aggregate demand is the only way out. So that is going forward. I don't think we need to expect much on the tax-related soaps, except for some changes to the new tax regime, which is going to be the default. Further, MSMEs, I have a different opinion on the MSMEs. We think that credit is the biggest constraint among the MSMEs. Economic surveys suggest that we have 80% of the firms who employ less than 100 people. However, there are other structural issues, and importantly, there are incentives for the MSMEs to remain MSMEs. There is no incentives for the MSMEs to upgrade themselves or to go up the hierarchy. This is one reason why MSMEs remain MSMEs, and their problems are going to persist. And some of the schemes might simply lead to evergreening of the loans. Of course, in the employment front, I see some interesting suggestions. We need to see how they are going to implement it, especially the 1 month of wage to the first-time employers, 15,000 in 3 months. These things we need to see how these are going to be implemented. But as on the broader picture, there weren't any surprises. There weren't anything major coming, but they just focused on what they were doing, and no plan to derail from that.
Right. All right. So now for my final round of questions, I'm going to ask each one of you to rate this budget on a scale of 10, and you'll also have to give a reason, but a short reply and a very concise one I would want from each one of you in my final round. I'll begin with Mr. Thomas Franco. Mr. Franco, on a scale of 10, how would you rate this budget and why? A very crisp answer, quickly. Yes. Yes, Mr. Franco, yes.
I will rate it as just 3 points, and the reason is that it is more of a pro-corporate budget than a budget for the larger majority of the country.
Okay, so 3 on 10 because it seems like a corporate budget. Himanshu Bayani. Unmute, Himanshu. Yeah. And also specify the reason. Himanshu, unmute, and also specify the reason why you are marking it on a scale of 10, whatever marks you're giving. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm rating it on a 3 basically, because as I said, if it gets implemented, it is 5. Otherwise, it's 3, and it's more of good of announcements for economy, but I don't know how it will get implemented, and it's more of an anti-tax kind of a budget.
Okay. Giri Prakash, what is your rating for the budget? Yes, unmute.
I would go with the rest, 3 out of 10, basically because of the fact that it doesn't take any of the steps that were initiated in the previous budget forward. In fact, in many ways, it's an isolated kind of budget. And as far as job creation is concerned, I don't think that's going to happen.
All right. I'll come to Srini sir. Srini sir, how would you rate the budget on a scale of 10?
Look, I would give him 5. You know why? Because I feel that this government, whatever schemes and other announcement they make in the budget, may end up doing something else. So this could just be a document, and they could take a different approach. But I certainly see that as far as fiscal consolidation is there, they are on the right path, and he is trying to continue on that. But as far as others is concerned, what could really derail this government is the political situation, especially the 2 states,
Right.
Andhra Pradesh and Bihar. You can't take them lightly. And I don't know how much of this loan is coming in the form of grant, how much is central assistance, how much is just a multilateral sovereign guarantee which center is going to stand. I mean, whether the states will actually get those funds, we have to wait and see.
Yeah. That's a significant point which Srini sir made. Professor Charan Singh, to you, how would you rate it on a scale of 10, sir?
See, this question on scale of 10, let me break it. 5 out of 5 on fiscal consolidation. 3 out of 3 on vision. On implementation, we'll have to wait and watch. So if you are saying out of 10, I'll put it at 8.
Okay, so 8 on 10, and you've broken it down. But what you said, you had your doubts about the implementation. So we really do not know whether it will be implemented or not. Pushpraj, how would you really rate it on a scale of 10? And give your specific reason as well for it.
Rating the budget 4 out of 10, I want to genuinely say that we need more leaders like the Honorable Finance Minister, who can bring together all religions, caste, and parties in the spirit of mutual frustration. And I want to make a very quick point about how this budget will strain cooperative federalism. To protest against Tamil Nadu not getting any fund allocations in this budget, Tamil Nadu CM has announced just a little while ago that it will boycott the July 27 Niti Aayog meeting in Delhi. Punjab and other states are expected to follow. This is what happens when you don't govern consensually, and this is how it is. This implementation is going to go for a toss.
Okay, all right. So the final word to Dr. Bipin Soni. How would you rate it on a scale of 10 and give your
I would
specific
give
reason?
this budget a score of 6.5 out of 10 for one on the fiscal prudence, focus on capital expenditure. On the taxes, short-term capital and long-term capital gains, I think they are already trying to reduce the impact of an overheated asset market, and of course the focus on youth. On the con side, you have no big announcement. It doesn't look like a new government's budget, right? And I have my own doubts about the implementation strategies of the.
Right. So that's a larger point which is coming across, that there are doubts whether it will be implementable or not. But over this, you've been listening to us for the last 1 hour, and all the viewers who have been hooked onto the federal, you've got a macro picture of what the budget looks like, what are the hits, what are the misses. And on a scale of 10, we have also rated the budget from all the veterans who've joined us today. So we'll have to wait and watch. And the budget is read, it is scrutinized, it is analyzed over a period of about a week. Since when the budget comes out. So I'm sure every day over the next few days, we'll have some new stories, new angles, new headlines coming out from the newspaper. So we'll have to wait and watch to read the finer print of the budget. But we'll have to leave it here. Thank you so much, Professor Charan Singh, Srini Sir, Dr. Bipin Soni, Himanshu, Giri Prakash, Pushpraj. It was wonderful having all of you on the program. Thank you.
Thank you.